everyone, Ali the AI assistant here. Before we begin today's show, I just wanted to introduce you to the powerful tool being featured on today's show, YourPath.ai. Path is an AI-powered skills trainer and career mentor built to help you maximize your potential and find your path. Now, let's get to our interview with founder and CEO of Path, Chandler Malone.
Okay, cool. This is where we insert banter. Hey, what's going on? How are you?
Chilling. How are you?
You know, it's a vibe. We have E here today, which is, I don't know how we got her, but she's here. So, yeah. So, how long are you going to be in the area?
I'm leaving out first thing tomorrow morning. Heading home to Miami. I haven't been home in like 2 weeks. So
Really?
yeah.
Man, traveling man.
The grind.
Love that for you. Not for me, but for you, for sure.
I feel like I probably have about like 2 more years of this like left in me before it's like time to like really just like settle down.
Yeah, I feel that. Well, do you know what's about to happen?
Tell me what's about to happen.
Did you read the one pager?
I did.
All right, so we are about to play That's My Jam, 90s R&B edition. So here are the rules. We are going to play 4 songs.
Okay.
All right. You have until the end of the song to guess either the name of the artist or the name of the song. If you get both, it is a total flex.
Okay.
All right. You get this. See, we've even increased the number of guesses. You get 3 guesses. And I mean, if you get 0, it's okay. You're amongst good company. All right. So are you ready?
I'm a little nervous about my performance on this, but I think we're ready.
It's okay. It's okay. All right. Song number 1, Anthony.
Don't leave. Don't, baby, don't, baby, don't, baby, don't. Don't leave me, girl. No, no, please stay with me tonight.
We have a microphone today.
Don't leave me, girl.
Oh man, I'm about to embarrass myself. I'm gonna go with my guess for the artist is Jodeci on this one.
You know what is funny about that? I guess the exact same thing. It's not, though.
Damn.
Let's see.
I think he's also the first person to have a second guess. No one ever
gets it.
Like,
Part of me feels like this is a group just from like what I heard early on. So I think my next choice is going to be Tony Tone, maybe.
No.
Oh.
He did the buzzer.
Yeah, I think I'm out of guesses for this one.
You want me to play it again? You want me to play the song again?
No.
I'm not
No.
gonna get it. I'm not gonna get it.
Okay. It's Blackstreet.
Okay.
Yeah. Do I know the name of the song? Nope.
Don't leave.
Don't leave.
Yeah, I didn't know the name.
But you knew it was Blackstreet?
I knew Blackstreet, but I didn't know the name.
Fair enough. All right. Song number 2.
If I let you come inside tomorrow, will you hide? Will you be there for me when I need someone
He's
to
got
hold?
it.
Baby, don't misunderstand. I do want you for my man. I just need a little
I love this song, but I've never heard it before in my life.
Don't walk away, boy. Don't
Okay.
walk
E is into it. So,
Oh man.
E, you want to go ahead and let this man know?
Oh, no. This is his turn.
Oh man. I don't even know where to start with the guess. Can I get a clue if it's a group or a soloist?
Sure. We could give that hint.
We give hints.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna get the hint and still
We
not get
do-
it right.
We do today. We do today. Is it a group or person? It is a group, right? Yeah, it's a group.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I've said 2 groups, and I feel like it wasn't either one of those 2.
It's a female group.
Yeah, I'm stumped.
I thought he was going to say Spice Girls. Okay.
Oh, no, I know it wasn't him.
All right. So this one is Jade. What's the name of the song?
Don't walk away.
All right. Cool. Jade, Don't Walk Away. Ding,
Yeah.
ding, ding. Or Buzz.
I was unfamiliar with Jade, but I like their game. I like their game.
It's a good song. All right. Song number 3. You know this one.
Everyone falls in love sometimes.
It's the cut.
Sometimes it's wrong.
You about to make me mad.
Oh my gosh.
See, in the 90s, I was going to church twice a week. You know what I'm saying? We wasn't listening to the radio, you know. So if we did a 90s gospel version, you know what I'm saying? I feel like I'd be super on point, but it's a little outside of my.
I'm gonna give you a hint.
Okay.
Preacher's wife.
Oh, Whitney Houston.
Boom. Okay.
Not Preacher's wife. What are you doing?
We had to help. We had to.
Yes, Whitney takes him.
Yeah, but
appreciate you.
no. I was trying to. He said church. He was in church, so I figured he had seen the movie Preacher's Wife. Context.
Yeah.
Context, baby. Context.
I appreciate the clue. You helped me out because I was struggling.
I got your back. All right, last one. If I don't, yeah, this one's tough. All right, song number 4. We'll just play it since this is.
You are so
Dre.
beautiful, girl. It is so critical, girl. You look so crucial, girl. Something about you is everything. You are mine.
Oh, that hit. That one hit.
Highly spoken of, my only love, the only one. You're my wifey. Make my life complete, sweet. But you know
We just gonna let it play out because we like Dre.
only when it comes to me. See, that's why you're my wifey. Will you be my wifey? Yes, I'll be your wifey.
Yeah, I know you hear this, man. These are so good. Okay. That one was next, wifey.
Okay. I'm not going to send me these because I like every song that's played.
I got your back. So before I forget, because I always forget, shout out to Dre Scott. He's the one who provides the vocals for That's My Jam 90s R&B. We love you, Dre. All right, so let's go ahead and get started, get into the reason people are actually here. If it's your first time, welcome. If you already know the vibes, welcome back. I'm Jordan, a.k.a. Jay, a.k.a. The Chosen One, a.k.a. Big Stepper, and I'm here with my 2 co-hosts today. Tiffany, you want to take it away?
Yeah, well, I'm Tiffany B. We're happy that you're here for an episode of the Stats on Stats podcast, where we get to talk to leaders in the cyber, IT, technology spaces, and AI too, right? Speaking of those leaders, we are joined here with...
I'm Evil, soon to be Dr. Evil. I don't have a whole spiel like you all do, but I'm going to go with the same flow like you do. I want to be like y'all, so over to you.
Okay, all right. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Tiffany. Get us popped off. Thank you, E, for that.
And Chandler.
Yep. How's it going, everybody? My name is Chandler Malone, founder of an AI company called Path. Super excited to be here and just share a little bit about what we're building and just the entire journey.
Man, this is going to be interesting because all of us want to ask you a bunch of questions. But I guess before we get started, can you tell them where you're from, how long you've been in the space, and then what your current, well, you already said what your current role is.
Yeah. So originally from Dallas, Texas, grew up there, lived the first 18 years of my life there. Obviously, like most formative years of my life, as I feel like that is for most people. Went to St. Louis for school. Spent a little bit of time living in Tulsa, a little bit of time living in Atlanta, currently living in Miami, and working on an AI company called Path. I'd say for the past 5 years or so, I've been really focused on this intersection of technology, workforce development, education, and finance. And I think just being able to go build companies in that space has really allowed me to learn a lot more about myself, but also be able to have like very fulfilling work. And then just in general, you know, at this intersection of entrepreneurship, you know, and technology, I've really been at it for, I say almost, we're coming up on 10 years now. 2014 was when I started my first business. 2015 was when I got my first job at like a technology investment firm. And so, yeah, it's been almost a decade now.
Oh, wow.
That's wild.
I was about to be like, you look like you're about 22. So I'm sorry.
I could see that for sure. So do you mind telling us a little bit? You said you like started your first business 10 years ago. What was your business?
Yeah, I feel like it was the low-hanging fruit that most people's first business was. We started promoting concerts. We saved up enough money to start hosting our own events, you know. And I feel like for a lot of folks, that's their first business. But I think also it's like you're able to see that you as an individual can go put something out into the world and people will respond to it and, you know, pay for it and you can build it and grow it. And I think for me, that being my first entrepreneurial experience and it being successful, that's really what gave me a lot of like confidence and energy to continue to take on like slightly more complex entrepreneurial ventures, you know, after. And I'll say that, you know, as well, right, like I'm not a technical person, but even with that company, right, it's like we were using this mismatch of Facebook events, Eventbrite, MailChimp, right? Like all these technology tools. And so, even just my kind of like development and growth as an entrepreneur, it's like I looked at the things that were enabling me to do what I was doing on my first thing. And it's still very much in this realm, of tools that, we're conversing about now. So
Everybody's definition of low-hanging fruit is so different. Because I'm like, you're like, my first business was events. And I'm like, I literally would have been like lemonade stand.
Well, I'll say it seemed apparent to me, right? Because it's like I'm in college. Everybody's looking for fun stuff to do. There's a limited number of things that you can do on campus. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, well, people are looking for something to do. We can find the people and rally them up because they all live on top of each other. And so, yeah, to your point, I think it is a little bit different, but I feel like when you see it, it seems obvious to you, you know?
Yeah, he's got Bertram energy. Yeah, Bertram was one of our guests, and he had like this casual billionaire energy. You know what I'm talking about? He was like, doesn't everyone know how to do all of the coding? I started when I was 8. Didn't everybody? Like, oh, okay, gotcha.
Your path really emphasizes being able to use AI to advance. And so I guess one of the things that I have questions about is how do you see it being able to change the way that we move into our careers?
Yeah. I feel like there are so many issues with the education system. I feel like there are so many just like widespread changes that are happening in this like education to employment pipeline. And our major institutions are just not equipped to be able to adapt to those things quick enough to be able to serve the people that they set out to serve. You look at just college enrollment, right? College enrollment's declined every year for the past 15 years, right? 15 years in a row, like it's not like college enrollment's about to start going back up. Like we have just passed that inflection point. And you look at reasons why, right? It's not like college is getting less and less expensive. But at the same time, 50% of Fortune 500 companies have gotten rid of their college degree requirements, right? And so I'm not, arguing for people not to go to college if that is, like in their goals and if that was what makes sense to them. But the pipeline has changed. And so I feel like in general, in this country and in the world, a lot of folks that are in charge of large systems, they aren't working day to day in the field, right? Like a teacher is going to know what a student needs better than someone who's working on Capitol Hill. And so with that being said, I think that our major institutions aren't really shifting fast enough, right, to be able to equip people with the skills that they need for job training, right? I remember, and this is a small example, and there are so many examples of this. I remember when I started school, everyone wanted to go into investment banking because that was the job where you could make the most money without having to go to grad school. By the time I graduated, everybody either wanted to be a software engineer or a PM at a big tech company because those people were making a higher base salary than the investment bankers. And that happened over a 4-year period of time, right? Mm-hmm. Like you start to think about jobs now like drone operators, right? Solar panel, installation, technicians, right? Folks who work on wind turbines. Those people are coming in making 80 grand getting started, right? And it's like a lot of folks with college degrees don't make that much money getting started. And so, to kind of bring this back to path, right? What we've built is an AI tool that can teach you any skill that you want to learn. You type in a skill, it'll come up with an entire curriculum, assessments to ensure that you're retaining the knowledge. But we also have this mentor that will answer any questions that you have directionally about where you want to go and how to get there. And at the end of the day, the only thing that is going to be able to give people the level of individualization and personalization that is just necessary in education for people to get what they need, but also be able to give them the current information, right, as the world is changing so fast, is going to be something that's enabled with these newest technologies, right, which is AI. And so I feel like that was kind of a long-winded, response. But our big institutions, it takes forever for them to change. The world's moving so fast, so people need a tool that can adapt fast with the world to be able to give them what they need. So
you just seem to have this passion for coming back to making sure that you help others to be able to build their career. Like what keeps driving you towards building pathways for careers and education and boosting people's future?
Yeah, I don't have some like super complicated thing. I think it was just me playing basketball as a kid growing up. I'm super appreciative, to my parents just for all of the time and energy that they put into me. But basketball as a young person had me in situations where I'm flying on private planes in middle school because a kid's dad sold his company to AT&T. And also my mom's buying peanut butter, jelly, and bread for my teammates, right? And then it's like I get into my 20s and you start looking at people's life outcomes. And people's life outcomes literally have nothing to do with like who was like a good kid. And it's literally directly correlated with like their parents' socioeconomic status. And so just like when I look back to things in my life where I'm like, oh, I had a friend who did not maximize potential in their home situation, was just like all the way messed up. You know what I'm saying? Or I had a friend who did not make it to 18 and they had so much potential in life, right? the easiest way to solve that problem is not to go in and do something for them. It's actually to be able to provide a level of economic stability for their parents. And so I think like where everything that I'm doing just in terms of like an economic like mobility play comes from is like, I look at some of the best people that I knew as a kid growing up, and like lives do not look the way that people who were half of the human being, you know, as them looked. And it was literally just because of the access they had due to their parents' like socioeconomic status. And so I feel like if we can help people be able to get good economically mobile jobs, that solves like 90% of your problems in life. So that's like really where it comes from.
I have a question. I don't want to put E on the spot, but my question for E is actually like just based on what Chandler has told us about Path and his vision for education and people's socioeconomic status. What are your thoughts, like in terms of how Path can kind of change the landscape?
No, he hit so many nails on the head when he was saying how the landscape of education is just changing so rapidly that you have to have a tool that is going to upskill you as quickly as possible. And I think that that tool is going to give people who may not have access to college and universities and things like that the resource to do that at a lower price point, right? We're starting to see with YouTube videos and things like that, and we've said it in past podcast episodes that you don't need this education, you don't need this like these certifications and all of these big things in order to upskill yourself. You can just go on YouTube and just kind of learn a whole lot of things. Having a tool that will adapt to your personal learning style, your personal something that's personalized to you and how you learn and what your career path is revolutionary. And so kudos, chef's kiss.
I appreciate that. And I'll say like, even, you know, to the cost piece, right? You know, my company Boot Up, we work with, you know, a lot of boot camps, right? And I think boot camps are marketed, right, as this like way more affordable, way more accessible option. But then when you really get down to it, a lot of the boot camps, you got to have a 750 credit score to apply for the income share agreement. I don't know if y'all saw what happened to Lambda School or Bloom Institute of Technology. Mm-hmm. They just got hit by the Consumer Financial Protections Bureau. And so they basically can't offer income share agreements anymore.
Oh, wow.
But it's like, if you're paying 15 to 25 grand for 4 to 6 months of work, you might as well be paying for Ivy League semester, you know? And so even a lot of these alternative education pathways don't have like the level of like accessibility for them to be there for everyone the way that we would hope that they would be.
One of the questions I had kind of piggybacked off of what you were saying, and it is, how do you see, what is your thought on how AI in general will impact this industry? Not just like your tool obviously is doing that for education, but where else do you see AI impacting the workforce?
Oh yeah, I think everywhere. And I've got just like a couple kind of like thoughts and then points to point back to. So one, in general, businesses are trying to grow and make money. And so I think folks are always scared about their jobs. Like, yes, there are going to be some things that are automated out, but if you're able to be a revenue driver for your business, or if you on top of an AI tool is able to be more effective for your business than just an AI tool, then your job is probably safe. You know, I worked in a venture capital firm where we invested in fintech products, right? There was an earlier, I'd say less, I don't want to say sentient, but less like technical, you know, kind of form of this machine learning called robotic process automation. A lot of financial services firms started using that for risk and compliance. They didn't get rid of their risk and compliance teams. They had the same size risk and compliance teams, but the backlog of tickets just dropped exponentially. And so, you know, I think what your industry and what your job looks like, whether or not you'll get automated out or whether you'll be using an AI tool, I think there's like a lot of nuance to that. But I think the other piece is like, you start looking at any of these like reports that are out there, and they're basically saying over, you know, a 10-year period of time, right, AI is going to create more jobs than it's going to get rid of. And it's going to get rid of a ton of jobs, but it's going to create a lot of new jobs. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I think understanding, right, like where you play in whatever your industry is, right, and if you have a very repeatable task, there's a likelihood that you might get automated out, right? If you have a task that requires a level of emotional intelligence, right, or a level of context or a level of relationship building, then you're probably good. So I think those are just some of the things that I think about. But I'll say last piece is, our world changes every however many years, right? People wouldn't think about being a viable member of the workforce within certain types of jobs if they didn't have basic computer skills, right? Basic Microsoft Office or basic G Suite skills, right? And I feel like for AI, I think people need to look at it the same way. This is a new set of technologies. This is a new set of tools that are coming out, but they're going to be integral to our day-to-day experiences, to our day-to-day workflows. And so for you to be an effective member of the workforce, you don't have to become a programmer, but you need to get comfortable with and around the tools that are like pertinent to your industry.
For you, like when you start thinking about like the people that you're looking for to be maybe a part of Path, like what are some skills that you feel like could help them in the forward progress for Path as an organization?
And so you're talking about like people that we would potentially hire?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, man, I got a lot of thoughts on hiring. The first thing is I actually care less about how much experience you have and more about how much you care about the thing that's being built or like the end customer. Because you could be 20 years experience and be amazing, and you could clock out at 5 o'clock every day. You could have 4 years of experience and it is like a part of your just like personal mission and like who you are and who you want to be in the world. And you could be working around the clock and figure out some stuff that like literally in no other setting would you even have the energy or aptitude to be able to figure out, And so like number one, I just want people who like really care about the problem or care about the people that we're serving. I think number two, right, it's very early, right? And so being in a startup environment, I feel like you've got to be incredibly adaptable and also just like okay with a level of ambiguity, right? And I think that, you think about what's going to help people succeed in the world in general, right? It's like the world's changing faster than it is, so people got to be more adaptable and more comfortable with ambiguity, And I think the last thing is just like communication skills. We are a team, right? Like we're trying to build something together for the world, and like the best way that any relationship happens is if they're just like very open and honest and like free channels of communication. And so for us to be on the same page about what we're building, for us to get over problems and issues, for us to be on the same page in terms of expectations, all of those things, right? There's got to be super open communication. And so I think those are really the things that matter the most in terms of people that we want in our organization. Obviously, you've got to have the skill set, but like I think like having the skill set is kind of like the baseline. And then it's like, what do you have on top of it? And those are the things.
Yeah, I actually do have a question in terms of user experience, right? As more and more users start to use this product and they start to be like, hey, I want to enhance this, I want to enhance this, I want to enhance this. How are you going to make those changes and how are you going to receive that feedback? Like what's your process?
Yeah. The first thing that I'll say is I always talk about playing sports and just being so grateful in this because since I've been 7 years old, I've been being coached, right? And so, like, I think sometimes people get feedback on their product and they take it personally. Like, somebody said my baby's ugly. And it's like, no, like, someone cares enough to, like, take some time out of their day and, like, tell you what would make it better. It actually behooves you to, like, listen to that. And every piece of feedback might not necessarily be the piece of feedback that you really need to just, like, home in on and, focus on, because you might know kind of like your direction and some of the things that you're looking to do a little bit better than your customers. But at the same time, everything is coming from a particular place, and you being able to get that feedback lets you know the things that you need to be paying attention to. In terms of ways that we've gone out seeking feedback, I mean, in our job application process, you can't apply for the job without giving a feedback document. And even just like in our outreach to customers and users on a monthly basis, like we'll send out an email specifically asking for feedback. And then, when I go out, and do talks or like we do a partnership with like a larger group, I will always make sure to give my personal email out to that group to basically be like, hey, if you guys have anything, we want to hear it back. And so we've got a couple different documents of feedback just from like different groups of users. And then in terms of like implementing it, we have like our priorities and our roadmap in terms of like what's important, what we think is going to provide the most value. And so we'll take the feedback. We'll also take our roadmap, see where things, make sense. If there's something that just people are like, hey, we can't like use the product, if this isn't fixed, like, of course we're going to fix that first. If there's something that we're like, hey, this feature is actually like our least important feature right now, and someone's giving us a fix on that, that's probably going to be a little bit lower priority, But the thing I'll say for anyone who ever wants to like go build a company or just do anything out in the world, like having like a spirit of like gratefulness for feedback that you get will get you so far, you know, in comparison to just being someone who, you know, is constantly trying to like be defensive, like when you get feedback and those types of things.
Yeah, that's fair. I actually have one more question, then I will be on verbal handcuffs. My next question is actually like, because you did do boot up. Did you like wake up one morning, like after like doing boot up and go, path? Like, was it kind of like a natural sort of progression?
I will say it wasn't just a one morning wake up thing, but it was definitely very natural. Like so many of the things that I learned from boot up are things that, you know, have gone into like what's been a part of just like the thesis behind path. A lot of the relationships, right, that I built at boot up were people who we were able to get feedback from or, you know, start having conversations with about like actually building, you know, this new business with. I'll say a couple things happened. So one, we remember not this March, but last March, right? OpenAI kind of just like opened up the floodgates, right? By like offering like ChatGPT to the whole world. I saw a lot of people building different types of businesses as like these like ChatGPT wrappers, right? And they didn't have entire technical teams, right? They didn't have sales and customer success teams around them. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. You know, if you can build a therapist, if you can build a friend, if you can build all these things, it's like you can build something to help people learn what they need to learn and guide them where they need to go. And so like March of last year was like really when I started seeing like, oh, hey, the technology barrier has gone down to like build this type of thing. My co-founder, honestly, brother, Chris, was working on a company called Scally at that point in time. We had connected and just been like building like a very close friendship, you know, over years. He was helping people get scholarships for higher education. Right on. You know, and so it's like we're coming from the same place. He ended up being in a space where he was getting acquisition offers, you know, for the company. And, you know, that's when you start thinking about, you know, what you want to do next. And so we started just having conversations about a number of different things. And so that kind of time period of March when the technology just made it easier to August when we actually launched it, a lot of that was just he and I working together to kind of just like flesh out what we want to do. And then once we figured it out, it was like, all right, we've got our roadmap. Let's actually go get it done.
Sick.
So you building this this system, you had to train it on something. You have to get that knowledge from somewhere. Where are you getting that information from?
Yeah. And so this is where I talk about just some of the things from, you know, both of our past experiences, right? So Chris's company helped people find scholarships for college, right? And so he, over the past decade, has interfaced a ton of college advisors, right? My company, Boot Up, right, partnered with over 130 boot camps, right? So partnered with a ton of career services departments, right, for these alternative education programs. And so for our mentor, that's this conversational piece, we had thousands of conversations to draw from that were these types of conversations, right? Like asking for context, you know, not giving advice just based upon like what's in a textbook, but giving advice for what someone wants out of like their specific career and life and lifestyle. You know, we've got a resume optimization tool, right? With Boot Up, you know, we helped over 3,000 people get their first jobs in tech. Those 3,000 people all applied through applicant tracking systems. That's 3,000 resumes that we can go train this model with so that, you know, when you go put your resume in and it gives you feedback, the feedback's not based upon what a YouTube video says is best practices or Google says is best practices. It's like, no, this is what the applicant tracking system's vetted out, you know. And then even, you know, our skills trainer, you know, the gentleman who built the skills trainer was a lead curriculum developer at General Assembly. General Assembly is one of the largest, you know, alternative education programs out here. And so he had this intersection of technological expertise, but also pedagogical expertise. And so we could go take the LLMs that were out there and already had so much knowledge and information and data that would have taken us so much time and so much money to figure out. And we could just put this context on top of it. So it's not just spitting out OpenAI response or an Anthropic response, but it's giving you a curriculum, right? It's giving you assessments. It's seeing how you're doing on the assessments, seeing which questions you're missing, and being, this is the part of the curriculum where the person didn't retain it. We're going to change how we present this curriculum to them so that the next time when they get this assessment, we'll see if this new way that we presented it to them is easier for them to retain. And so those are just kind of some of the pieces that we trained it with.
It's good stuff.
That's dope.
Hurdles. Like you've done the major events, you've done venture capital, you've done tech, you've done you're doing AI. Like, what are some hurdles that you faced early on that shaped your work with Path?
I feel like there's so many, like literally every day. Like you even think about this week, great stuff has happened this week, but I feel like had I not been like 10 years into this, I would have been like, oh man, like everything's on fire this week. And so like in general, I feel like there's a ton of hurdles, right? Like I'm not technical. I can't actually build any of these products. And so finding and convincing the technical talent and also vetting the technical talent to ensure that they have the skill set, right? Like that is always for me, like always. And it's something that I've gotten better at because I have like more experience doing it. But you know, you got to think the thing that you want to bring to the world, you actually can't create it. And so, you know, like that's definitely just like a piece to get over. You know, with that being said, right, it's like stuff's expensive. You know, living is expensive, but also building things is expensive. You know, and I think just like being able to have the resources to really just be able to put your energy into something and like build and not be thinking about paying for rent and all of the other things next month, right? Like getting that financing for things is always a hurdle, you know, and I think that I've been able to have a level of success in financing things that the majority of the population hasn't had, but those things still don't come easy, you know? You know, I think also there's like I normally hate to like talk about these things because I like to just focus on like the like forward moving aspects and like the kind of like motivation pieces. But there's always like that piece of imposter syndrome when you walk in a room of, hey, I'm not technical. Hey, a lot of times I'm the youngest person. Hey, a lot of times I'm one of the only people of color as well. And it's like you could just think about all of the things and then be in a spot where you don't feel comfortable talking to anybody. And so, you know, I think like all of those things have been like super big difficulties. But at the same time, I think that, you know, and I don't know what people's kind of like religious or spiritual beliefs, but I feel like when God, the universe, what your thing is, put something on your heart, like it behooves you to go after it, even if there are hurdles in the way. And the thing is, when you face hurdles and you start to overcome them, like the level of confidence that builds, and then you see hurdles in the future and you're like, this is just par for the course. I'm going to figure out how to do it. And it's like not as big of a deal, you know, as it was, you know, years ago in the past.
Awesome. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it.
I'm just like, I'm so intrigued. It's a lot of the things that you just said, like imposter syndrome is real. And then a lot of the things that you do just off top just means that you got to go and talk to people, which I am not for. And but you have this shirt on and it says introvert, and yet you still doing it. And so it's like, even though you have this like probably nagging feeling of like, I don't want to do this, you still are like, I'm just going to do it because I know it's good, and I know that they're going to adopt this, and they're going to like this, and it's going to be the best thing ever. And so that's a big thing that a lot of people have to realize, that sometimes you have to fail or you have to get past what you don't want to do to get to something that you do want to do. But I had two questions out of like all the things that you said, and they don't go together. But anyway, so the first is, how are you positioning your company to be a generational company, or just something that's long standing?
Yeah. I think the venture capital space, when interest rates were a lot lower, there were a lot of bad habits that were being encouraged, right? Like growth at all costs, to where like people weren't having sustainable businesses, right? Like we remember Bird was like the fastest company to $1 billion valuation, and then had to file for bankruptcy last year. Like that's like not what like building a business like actually looks like. And I'm not commenting on their business model or anything like that. It's just like the ease of access to financing was encouraging people to just spend the money on growing the thing rather than actually trying to build a profitable business. And so I'll say, you know, two things. One, you know, I grew up in the South and in the Midwest. The kind of like venture capital market in those regions is a little bit less aggressive than it is on the West Coast and, you know, in the Northeast. And so just like some of the business fundamentals that I learned early on from just people that I was close to were more focused on building profitable businesses. My business partner also had like Chris had one of the largest exits ever, you know, for a Black founder in the tech space, and raised less than $500,000 for the company. Right. And so it's like both of us have this culture of trying to build profitable businesses, not just fundraising machines that, you know, oops, we spent all the money, but, you know, we know that you guys like us, and, you know, if we do well, you'll make money from it, you know? And so I think that's one piece. I think the other piece is a lot of people don't really understand how big of a business opportunity education is, right? Like when you think about things that are just like core infrastructure, right? You're like, oh, like people who, you know, control oil and gas, people who control railroads, right? Like people who control like clean water access, right? Like those are like some of the strongest and most powerful and most profitable entities in the world because it's core infrastructure that's like literally just needed for humanity to survive. When you think about what an individual needs to survive, they need a roof over their head and they need food. And in today's world, the way that you go get those things is you have a skill that you go out into the labor market and you go show off that skill and then you get compensated for that skill. And so at the end of the day, literally every single person has to be educated. Like has to, just like every person needs water, just like we need like power to just like fund our lives. And so, you know, when you talk about just building like a generational, you know, business, like I see every person who's over 16, you know, over the next decade having this, you know, like to the point of penetration of like these social media companies, right? Because all of us, like we need to be able to be economically viable just so we can live and have a bare minimum life. And so, yeah, I think we're really focused on profitability. And I think we've picked a space that is just like integral to like the human experience.
Yeah, you were just, once you said what are your foundational needs, what it is that you just need as a human, that's when I started thinking of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And at the very bottom, it's just like, what are your physiological needs? You need that roof over your head. You need to be able to take care of yourself. And you can't experience just care for self until those things are satisfied. And in order to get those things, you have to have the education in order to build yourself up. And so, yeah, I never really looked at it like that, but thanks for opening my eyes on that. And if y'all don't mind, I have another one. It is so Tiffany was mentioning how like what types of hurdles that you faced, and my background in AI is in governance and risk. And so I was just wondering, what concerns do you have about AI risk, whether in general or for your company specifically?
Yeah. I mean, we're leveraging some of the largest like AI companies in the world for like the actual data sets. And then like, you know, we're training it and providing some of our own proprietary data on top of it to create like a unique experience. But with that being said, right, it's like those people don't work for us, right? Like they don't have the same values and the same like culture that we have. They could, but they also very likely could not, right? Like the things that we care about, you know, may be more focused around providing economic opportunity for folks, and the things that they care about maybe are more around, you know, just bottom line. And I'm not saying that this is the case, right? It's just like I can't look into OpenAI's organization or look into Anthropic's organization and say, hey, you know, these engineers aren't writing this code base with like any level of bias because I know them personally. I can't say that. On the other side, even like that, I think is just something that's like human nature. But I think like on a more nefarious side, right? Like all of these AI models are trained with data. And so something that like folks have been seeing like over the past couple years is that people will intentionally put data that throws off the model to basically create like a faulty system, you know, and this is like a bad actor. This is like nefarious work for somebody to do this, but like this is a very real thing. And then the last piece that I'll say is, right, just like the security issues, right? You know, my second venture capital firm that I worked at was cybersecurity focused, right? Whenever there's a new technology, right, there's a new thing that needs to be protected, right? And so the last thing that I would want is for, you know, us to be leveraging Anthropic's LLM. Anthropic gets hacked and it starts telling people something crazy all the time. And now all of a sudden our product starts telling people something crazy all the time. And so, you know, I think all of those things are major risks, but at the same time, I still feel more comfortable using another organization's you know, just like data and like technology, because they've got so much money to put much more money to put into security, you know, than I do, right? They've got so much more just like depth of industry understanding and knowledge to, you know, preemptively protect themselves from some of this like false weighting of models that, you know, we know people are nefariously doing. And so, yeah.
Yeah, it exactly what you're saying. Like these bigger companies, they have so much more to lose.
Yeah.
And so they're doing whatever they can to keep what they got.
Yep.
So that's a very smart way to approach it. So I'm gonna stop talking, y'all. I'm a put the silent button on. I'm gonna mute myself.
You are a blessing, E. Thank you for being here. You are, first of all, it feels like to me, and not even kidding, it feels like you were called to do this, like truly. Like it's inspiring to be around you. Like I know that's corny to say, Anthony, so I'm sorry. Yeah, no, for real. But where do you kind of get your confidence from? Like your ability to just like, I haven't heard a single like filler at all. No no likes, no. Where do you get your confidence from?
Man, how you got me thinking about saying but I think it's a couple things. I talked about this earlier. When you have these obstacles and you just face them head on and you overcome them, and that happens over and over and over and over and over again, at some point you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, I can do this. Like whatever's in front of me, like God's given me what I need in terms of just like aptitude and like people around me to figure out how to like navigate situations. I also feel like, the past 3 or 4 years of my life, like I feel like as I've been building some of these companies, I've dealt with just more BS and drama than in any other period of my life, like literally any other period of my life. But at the same time, it's like you look how things are going and it's like things are still like accelerating faster than they've ever gone at any point in my life. And I think you start to realize you're like, man, there are certain things that just don't matter. And there are other things that do matter. And like you focus on the things that do matter. And it's like that's where your like energy and just like source and like aura and like all of those things like come from. And I think for me, it's like I want to be able to touch and help as many people as possible. And I think that when people meet me, they either like feel that that's genuine, or if they don't feel that that's genuine, then like those probably aren't the people that I'm gonna be working with to like advance that mission and that goal. And so like it's fine. It's like not a big deal. And so yeah, I think those are just some of the pieces where I feel like I can go into a room and just like fully be myself and like.
Isn't that the goal, right? To walk into a room and feel like you can fully be yourself. We could have a whole other segment on that, but
on that piece too, there were times earlier in my career where I would fake it and where I wouldn't feel like I could be myself in a room, and I would dress down so much more than everyone else in the room to where it's like, well, you told everybody you're gonna go, you have to walk in the room now, but everybody's wearing a suit and I got some cargo pants on. You have to say what you're going to say with your chest. You know what I'm saying? When you're in a situation like that. And I think I did some of those things earlier on intentionally because I knew they were going to push me in a certain type of way. And I also knew that the people that it was going to resonate with were the type of people that like I wanted to be like spending time around and like growing, with.
And so you heard it here first. Wear flip-flops everywhere you go. All right, go ahead.
He has such a unique perspective. Like he has all the cheat codes. Do you have anything you really want to like that we haven't covered yet that you want to talk about for the program?
Yeah. I think the thing that I would say, and it's less just about talking about things that I have going on, but just like a kind of like word of advice, and encouragement for people. One, no one is like really checking for you as hard as you think they are sometimes. And so when it comes to just like getting out of your head and doing the thing and like maybe falling on your face and looking silly, like it is literally always the best thing for you to do, to go do it versus worry about some folks who are thinking about you like that. And I think the second thing is, and even as I was looking through some of the questions, you were asking me about things that surprised me. You look at all of these folks who maybe you watch their YouTube videos or you listen to their podcasts or you read their essays that they put out, right? And like those are folks to be able to learn from, right? Like all of those things are there for your knowledge, for your growth. But also you have unique perspective, you have unique insight, you have unique gifts. And so when you get in the room with these folks, when you have the opportunity to talk to some of these people that you feel like you're learning from that are some of your heroes, also like do not be afraid to like use your own voice in those settings, because those people are figuring stuff out just like you are, and your perspective, your insight coming from a different place a lot of times is going to be able to give them a whole different lens, of how to look at things. And so I say, yeah, don't be afraid to take the leap and, kind of fall on your face and look silly. And, when you come into contact with the folks that are your heroes, there's no point in being awestruck and starstruck. And, like that's an opportunity to actually share, what you're knowing, what you're noticing, how you're learning, how you're growing.
Did he just passively call himself our hero? He's like, you're welcome.
I mean, I'll say even to that point, right? Like I remember when I went out to go raise money for Boot Up, I was expecting a lot of these folks to know more than me about the specific space. And like, yeah, maybe they knew more about financing the companies and had seen more examples of what goes well and what doesn't go well. But when I was actually just talking about the boot camps and alternative education, I was like, wait, none of y'all actually know as much about this as I do. And I don't mean that in a way of like pointing a finger to myself. It's more of a like, you go in these rooms with folks and what you know is valid. And so, yeah.
Okay. You submit that paper, girl.
Okay.
You submit it. Submit that paper. He just.
This is not about me.
You heard it here.
How do you even just stay grounded? Like you are so focused. Do you take a break? And if so, what do you do?
Oh man, I need to be better about taking breaks for sure. You know, my friends in Miami will tell you, one of my friends, I'm in a group chat and they're like, you're paying for a storage closet just because of how much I've been traveling, just, you know, for work related things. But in general, just like staying grounded and like staying like focused on the goal, right? If you look at the last company that I started, you look at this company, right? It's the same thing. It's the same space. Like, I feel like if you really care about something, if you really, and especially if it's something that's bigger than you, you're going to be able to be devoted and committed for an extended period of time. You know, also, I mean, it's like I have visions of things that I want to do for the larger world, but also there's just like certain things that I want for my own family. You know, and it's like, if you really want certain things, like you will sit down, you will lock in and you will focus. And then I will say that the things that I do to just like make sure that the whole me is being fed, I'm a big routine person. When I was younger, I thought that routine was like handcuffs. And now, because there are certain parts of life that are on autopilot, it allows me to just like be more creative and have like more mental bandwidth for other things. I also play a lot of basketball. That was like a part of just my childhood growing up. And so it's something that I like and that makes me happy. But also it's like exercising is like so important. Not even for your like physical like frame, but like literally for your like cognitive abilities, you know? And being able to do it, right, like in a communal environment with people that, you know, I like and care about that also care about me. And, you know, there's a strategy element included in the exercise, right? Like those types of things, you know, that I like to do. And then, you know, living down here in Florida is nice. You know, you get to be on the water, you know, it's peaceful, calm. So.
But can you swim?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Also, not to go too far into this, but it actually makes me so upset, the whole, you know, thing around like swimming in our communities. Because when they first brought us over here, like literally like in the Carolinas, we were diving for pearls because we were used to diving off the coast of West Africa. Like they literally, like there was a demographic of us that were over here specifically to swim and dive. And then Jim Crow. But I digress.
I like the fact that like I could see the switch of he was like, this is a hill that I will die on. Like I have to get it off my chest. And sometimes you just have to. And I love that you just did that because I just learned something new. I didn't know all of that. So
Facts. Okay, so when we're in here, it's kind of like the Grammys. If you start to go over your time, you get a signal. Anthony has given us
play you out.
Given us the proverbial play out. So we got to go ahead and wrap it up. Tiffany, do your thing. Oh wait, I do my thing first.
Yes.
So first and foremost, thank you so much for joining us, like bringing your amazing AI perspective. Like seriously, you could be anywhere else in the world. You're here virtually with us. You should have been here physically. Anyways, Chandler, thank you so much for joining us. Seriously, we know you're super busy. Endless gratitude, really.
Thank y'all for having me. I mean, this was great. It was fun. And I feel like it's going to be incredible content when it comes out as well.
Thank you.
We have to do a new thing though. So are you willing to tell our listeners how they can contact you?
Yes. So first of all, the website for Path is www.yourpath.ai. Your, just the way that your is normally spelled, yourpath.ai. And all the social media is also yourpath.ai. My personal social media, you can find me on LinkedIn at just Chandler Malone. All the other sites, it's Chano out of there, CHANOOUTTATHERE. And so that's all my, I'll share just kind of like a lot of just like the journeys and things that I'm doing and kind of like have going on. I think that some of my friends who are entrepreneurs or are aspiring entrepreneurs, I feel like it's just interesting for them to see, you know, kind of like nuggets from time to time. And then also like I just have like the blessing and like opportunity to be around so many people that I'm able to learn from. And so it's like, if I'm learning from them, I definitely want to like be able to share it, you know, through my platform as well. And so definitely encourage people to engage on all those platforms.
Thank you so much. This has been great. Hey, listeners, our viewers, we also thank you for your time. We're so glad that you took the time to come and check out our podcast episode. We'll see you next time.